Hey everybody, and welcome to today's Confessions of a Hotel Worker. First story today is anonymous. Our front office manager announced she's leaving around a month ago, and her last day was last week. While she lacked some skills, she was a very nice and hard-working person, and we all liked her. However, a couple of us front desk agents were obviously more qualified, and especially the one shift leader we have, Erwin. Erwin and I are kinda good friends, we share a lot of interests and would talk outside of work. More about Erwin later. When we heard the news, we thought that it would make sense if they filled the position internally, since we were kind of overstaffed. And most people were really reliable, and know their way around. Basically, we're a functioning team, and we'd function without an FOM. So I applied for the position internally, and Erwin did. We waited for a while and heard nothing. Our general manager, Adam, looks like a nice guy, but he's like a chameleon. His face would change depending on the circumstances and the people around him. He's really good at doing this. So Adam sat me down one day, this was during the past month while our FOM was still there, said that they already found someone and they almost signed the contract. I said, alright, it's fine. I'll just stay in my position. A few days later, after coming home from my late shift around midnight, I found a job posting online for the front office manager at my hotel posted 3 hours ago. I knew it didn't work out with the person Adam talked about, if there was anyone. The application leads to the official recruitment site for our hotel chain. So I applied officially this time, wrote a nice cover letter highlighting how I'd love to take the next step within the establishment and the family that I've known for 3 years, all that crap. I sent the application and said nothing. Fast forward to this week. On Monday, Adam sat me down, started by pointing out some of the very small mistakes that I've done during the past couple of weeks, and then told me, "You've applied officially for the position, and I regret to inform you that we have an arrangement for the next couple of months where you're not the front office manager." I said, alright. Since I saw the job posting, I thought why not give it a try, but it's fine. Later that day, during the late shift with Erwin, he told me that tomorrow, Tuesday, he has a meeting with Adam regarding which tasks he's gonna overtake. I said, alright, very nice, you should get the position. I would honestly be very happy for Erwin to get the position. He said, no, he's not getting the position, only the tasks. I said, what the? So yesterday came. They had their meeting. Erwin is taking over most of the front office manager tasks without any promotion and, of course, no extra money. Heaven forfend. Here is the thing about Erwin, he's kinda a workaholic. He did his apprenticeship at this hotel. He's been working day and night for the small promotion he got to be a shift leader, and he would stay longer than his shift to do extra tasks. You don't pay me, I ain't doing it. Adam knows this very well, and is now using this. So Erwin is basically going to cover the front office manager position without having the benefits of it, while still doing full shifts at the front desk. Adam announced this plan and informed us that the front office manager position will be vacant for at least 6 months, and he's very proud of that. The job listing of a front office manager is still up online, even though he announced not intending to hire anyone in the next 6 months. Apparently Adam wants to see how this goes for a while, and will probably keep it this way to save salary of a front office manager. This ticks me off. The management is clearly taking advantage of a vulnerable employee, and they're getting away with it. When I talked to Erwin about it, he literally said, I can do nothing about it, I just have to accept it. You could literally have said no, man. You could have and should have. Adam got a chain-level reward last year for saving the investors the biggest chunk of money while still making a lot in revenue. This was more of a rant, and it rings a lot of bells for me. I'm already job hunting. Well, I hope he gets something soon, and I certainly hope that Erwin is doing the same. He might be a workaholic, doesn't mean he shouldn't be getting paid and respected for it. Alright, next story up is we all intuitively know what constraint violation means. I was so mad about this. I wasn't the only one, and every time someone brings it up it makes me mad. Though in hindsight it is somewhat in a funny way, but still, what the heck? So, we had a group come in. It ought to be as smooth as every other group, as in not completely, but fine for a group standards. Except I walk into a crisis, where people are unhappy with their rooms left and right, and one particular guest keeps getting sent to his group mates' rooms, assigned rooms that are occupied already. It was the third time when I walked in, this guy, whom I'll call Guy, had to be moved because this room is also occupied. I'm thinking, also? So, he is reassigned a room. My supervisor tells me we are running out of rooms to move people to, so hopefully there are no problems. She leaves, I am left. Guy comes back and says that one was also occupied. Cheesy crazy. And by now he is pretty frustrated. Understandable. I would be too. Sheesh. He wants to check the room first. It is against policy to do that, but I decide since we are completely out of his room type anyway, I'll just give him a comp upgrade, despite the fact that he is a group reservation. We've done it before, shouldn't be a problem. I only get slightly overwhelmed because there are 3 people already at the desk with problems when Guy returns. Group folks unhappy with their rooms. So I have to move 3 of them. And one of their problems is fixable by maintenance. However, 2 of the 3 reservations require room type changes to get them into sleepable rooms. I'm more than happy to help the human. The system, on the other hand, refuses to help the humans that program and control it. I'm able to move 1 person. Lady doesn't like her AC. Understandable, I move her to a room that happens to be the same room type, no problem. The other 2, Guy and new face, fella, they need room type changes, so fella is upgraded to a water view on the 1st floor because his original is on the 1st floor. System says constraint violation. Weird, because moving lady's room was no problem at all. I still give him the keys, but keep the room number in the system incorrect because the system will not let me. Mind you, I try multiple ways to change the room number outside of cancelling and remaking. Sheesh. I get back to Guy at last and I give him a high-floor balcony water view. Very nice, but once again, constraint violation. Why? There is no reason I couldn't change the room number, but not the room type. What is this constraint violation? I have never seen or heard of, and why is it happening to fella and Guy's reservation, but not lady's reservation? I put my autistic brain into overdrive and begin sussing out the patterns. We know groups are a pain in the donkey, from the sales director himself. We know things are different with the new system. Okay, that's fine. 1 group reservation is fine to move rooms, but not one of them are good with getting upgrades. Based on that info, I think, oh, of course, we can't upgrade group reservations that are all nice and prepaid, right? But if I can't even change it to the upgrade to begin with, I'll never be able to attach any upgrade fee, even if the fee is 0. It was the only common denominator. I send an email, print out reg cards, all the things I verbally let everyone know about this nonsense. I didn't think to call tech support, though my manager did. I was in the mindset of, this has to have something to do with the group. Maybe sales can fix it. I would never trust a generic tech support to mess with our sales end of the property. What if they do something super wrong and it causes just an extra step for sales to have to fix? Whatever, man. I come back another night. Turns out, this is so dumb. Constraint violation does not mean that the attempted change is in violation of a particular constraining factor, such as a group reservation not being allowed to upgrade due to prepayment made or something relatively logical like that. No. What it was that we cannot change room types on reservations that have no address on file, like physical address. 400 BS Street, 6161 Scroomy Circle, 1900 WTF Court. Room numbers are fine, but change room type. Oh my lord, call the police. I found out quite a few days later that tech support couldn't figure it out, by the way. Our GM figured it out. Didn't ask how, but I was informed he was mad. No kidding, I was mad too. What nonsense to have this borked donkey fixed non-broken process POS system rolled out to all our corp's brands. It's diabolical. Diabolical. So, not only was he mad about the situation like me, he was mad at me, bro. He wanted to write me up, apparently. That just heated me about the whole situation over again. He didn't, probably because he is a sort of reasonable GM, and must have figured out, yeah, this was super dumb. How was anyone supposed to figure out constraint violation meant that the reservation didn't have an address filled out, when at the same time other reservations didn't give a flying fluke about no address being filled out? Am I crazy? Alrighty. And third story today is I'm free, but at what cost? By Secure Substance 6719. Today was my last day working at my hotel and hospitality forever. I couldn't do it anymore. I have had to work customer service my whole life as I'm trying to get myself through college, but I've had to quit and seek professional help after this job. Public will do that to you. I have never been treated so horribly by management or customers in my life. Yep, absolutely. I was left with, we don't need to go into my story. Okay, next up today we have I'm Free But At What Cost by Secure Substance 6719. And this is something I think all of us who've worked in customer service can relate to. Today was my last day working at my hotel and hospitality forever. I couldn't do it anymore. I have had to work customer service my whole life as I'm trying to get myself through college, but I have had to quit and seek professional help after this job. I have never been treated so horribly by management or customers in my life, and I am seasoned. I shoveled crap at a horse barn last summer and was treated better. I have never felt more unsafe, and this is coming from someone who had a knife pulled on them at a previous job. Me too. We should start a club. I stopped wearing my name tags weeks ago despite management's insistence because male customers would scare me to death with disturbing comments about my body when I worked alone. Every day, all hours of the day, and I was terrified they'd find me outside of work. They're usually all mouth, no trousers. This hotel was a very high-traffic area near a popular national park, and we'd have sometimes 80 check-ins a day, with one person at the front desk and not another soul in sight to help with guest requests. So we saw every kind of person you can imagine from every country, and we were horrifically understaffed. It was very badly managed, which created issues for customers such as overselling by diabolical numbers a day, and shady cancellation policies. They'd make us cancel people's rooms, not even walk them, just cancel with around 3 hours or less notice to the guest to make the numbers correct again on our end. And this, more often than not, happened to guests without a white-sounding last name. This obviously created a loop where management sucked, so service sucked, so we were threatened and screamed at. I kid you not, all day because of the overwhelming amount of people coming in with no resources for them. There were no breaks allowed ever. That's illegal. 100% illegal. 9 hours of straight standing at the desk being bombarded by yourself. And I'm not supposed to be affected by constant threats or screaming? I don't care how tough you are, after a while it genuinely damages something in your mind working at this dump. It takes so long to recover from it afterward, too. As I said, I was never a weak person, and I never took things personally, as this line of work was all I've ever known, but this place was a different animal entirely. I survived about 6 months, and I'm leaving with a very disturbing perspective on society and legitimate health issues. I don't want to leave my house or talk to people anymore because all I can think about is how afraid I am of them. I see someone and just feel like I've wronged them already. I started out working nights and worked up to day shifts, and I love helping people, especially when they're tired and having a hard time, because I've had a damn hard life at points too, and I want to be the person I needed in those times. I'm just trying to get my degree. I understand issues can be extremely frustrating from a customer's perspective. But you guys have got to remember you're dealing with a breathing, living thing that wants to help you, and that management is never on your side. Corporate doesn't care unless you leave a bad review and hurt their numbers, because they don't care what their employees have to say. So threatening to hurt me over a dirty floor doesn't even change anything in the end if you don't follow up with a physical record of your displeasure. I honestly doubt there's going to be a lot of similar experiences in the replies, as this hotel was a very special case. But I feel like I'm going crazy, and I just had to put this out in the world in case someone else feels like I do. I would say that this experience has motivated me more than ever to finish college. I hope you do, absolutely. But I honestly have developed such severe physical problems from not eating. No rest. We'd often work until 11 p.m. and have to be back at work at 5 a.m. And anxiety that I feel hopeless. I'm disappointed with myself, that I allowed myself to be treated like this at a workplace for so long, and I'm so sad that I let my great work ethic overrule my physical and mental well-being. I worked so hard all my life, and it's easy just to dismiss red flags in the spirit of working hard for what you want. Well, you are free of it now, and the good news is eventually recovery is possible, and you will recover with the proper care and treatment. You'll get to where you need to be, where you want to be, and you've learned that you certainly don't want to go back to this kind of work. Your case does sound more extreme than most. I worked customer service, not in hotels. I worked in retail for 15 years, and I was threatened. I had things thrown at me. As I mentioned, somebody pulled a knife once. This store was robbed by a guy at knife point. He was nice enough to shove me as he came in. That all eventually takes a toll on you. As I say, my situation was a more gradual build-up than yours. Yours certainly sounds more severe and aggressive. But there is light, and it feels bleak now, but the healing process takes time. It's important to remember if you don't think things are progressing quickly enough for you, it's because getting to where you are was a gradual process. You probably didn't even realize it was happening at first. Recovering from it is also a gradual process until one day you'll look back and you'll be like, oh, I can't believe I felt so bad back then. Because you're so far away from it. Good luck. Okay, next up is Sold Hotel by Blonde Boxo or BXOXO. The hotel I work for just sold to a new owner right from under all of us. We're all still confused and disoriented over finding out, and the sale finalized today. The new owner was with my coworker working this morning and familiarizing himself with the property when my coworker messaged me instead of me starting my shift at 3 p.m. today. The new owner wants me to start at 5 p.m. Me and everyone else already felt uneasy about the ownership change, and this last-minute schedule change made me feel even worse about it. Especially being told an hour before my shift started for second shift. A little bit later she messages me, "Oh my god, now he wants you to come in at 6 p.m. This kind of flies me into anxiety. Am I gonna get fired? The new owner was there when I got in for my shift and didn't even introduce himself, and seemed dismissive and unhappy with me from the get-go, despite never meeting. I know he's cold-called the hotel incognito to get a feel for us, but I'm always extremely polite when speaking with guests or people on the phone, so I know I did well. He left when I got in shortly after, and he came back 2 hours later to what felt like an ambush. He walked to the desk and started quizzing me with a snobby, condescending attitude about why we've been doing things the way we've been doing, to which I replied our previous owners wanted it done that way and we were just following their orders. He scoffed in a way and made a comment how the previous owners were poor businessmen, wrote, and continued to bring up how I don't inspect rooms at the start of my shift, how this is unacceptable and going to change, and how it's ridiculous I've worked here for 2 years and don't get a head count on what rooms were dropped and why. I apologized, don't do that, no, but also pointed out I'm happy to learn now, and that this was never a part of my job description previously, and I was never shown how to do this. He got an attitude with me and said, "Really? You don't know how to do this in the years you've worked here?" I responded, well, yes, I know how to access the housekeeping board and see the rooms and why they were dropped, but I trusted the housekeeping supervisor's decisions not to sell the room. He said, "No, you always double-check. Why would you take their word for it?" Obviously doesn't respect the housekeeping staff. Interesting to note. "As a matter of fact, I want everyone to be their own manager." Well, we'll be our own owners as well. You're fired. Get out. I feel so incredibly discouraged. I really wanted to walk out. I want you to walk out too. I felt talked down to, and like a lot of blame for the hotel's issues were being cast onto me, like I was responsible for not doing enough to help, when anyone that comes in or works there will say I am the most active and engaged front desk clerk there. I mean, this dingus is calling your previous owners poor businessmen. They might have been. I didn't know them. You did. But he's so thick, he expects you to have been doing things the way he wants them done before he even owned the hotel. He doesn't understand that different owners have different practices. You were abiding by the rules, of course, exactly as they were explained to you. You can't predict the future. If you could predict the future, well, you certainly wouldn't be working there. He wants us to be perfect. But as good as I am at what I do, I'm not perfect, and this isn't how I'm used to working at hotels. It was bad enough getting the lousy $15.50 and putting up with the influx of responsibilities I did under the old owners. Now with a new owner, he won't even consider giving us a raise, because his other property pays $13 and they're fine with it. I don't even know how people can live off of that. They're not livable wages. I tried to represent myself as best I could, and I think I succeeded in that. And I agreed he had many good points. He probably didn't. And I believe he's going to make it a fabulous hotel. And legitimately invest needed upgrades into the property. And I get a strong feeling I'm not welcome in this future he's envisioning. And I desperately need a way out, I'm noticing. That isn't without saying I did defend myself and made my points as best I was able to convey to him, but I don't think it was receptive. Of course not. You're just a lowly employee. How dare you tell the big boss man how to do things? How could you possibly, in all your years of experience, have learned how a hotel works? No. Silly. You shouldn't even have thought of it. Anyone else ever work at a place where the ownership or rebranding was selling and changing? Yeah, I did that. Not a hotel, though, but I did that. What are your opinions on what I'm facing? Am I an issue in my workplace, in your opinion? And would you stay and adapt to the changes and extra pressure and workload with no raise? Thanks for reading. The fact of the matter is, hotels are always looking for new employees, so stick there. You need the wages for now. It's only a matter of time before he tries to force the wage down further, if he can get away with it. If he's used to paying $13 at his other properties, that's obviously where he wants things to be where you are. Get out. Get out as soon as you're able to. Find another job. You've got qualifications. You've got qualifications people are looking for that are sought after. I doubt you'll have a hard time finding a good place to work. And if that doesn't work out, again, as I say, you're qualified. Keep doing it till you find the place that works for you. Okay, and lastly today, What Goes Around Comes Around by Idiot Agent 01. I had a guy call in one morning asking about availability on a specific date. Keep in mind he has stayed with us once before, and I remember him being friendly. There weren't a lot of rooms available on the date he wanted, and I told him such, but also pointed him to a new discount code, so whatever room he booked, he would get a great deal. He says he will speak to his wife and call me back later. Yay. A few hours go by and he calls back, but this time with a different date. I look on the availability screen and see that we are apparently oversold for that day. I wasn't too sure what I was looking at because I had never seen it before, but negative rooms can't be a good thing. I looked to see if there was a large group booking, and sure enough there was. I let him know that, and just to be sure I would call my manager while I placed him on hold. I call my manager. She pulls up the screen on her end and tells me what I was expecting to hear. We were oversold. She told me to try to go through each room type and see if it would let me book a specific room type, but it is not likely as the inventory will have to be balanced. I took the gentleman off hold and told him I can try to book him to see if the system will balance itself. Of course I had no luck. The guy keeps going on and asking me to try different things. I try my best to explain that even though these specific room types are showing as available, the hotel technically already sold these rooms due to the overbookings. I like to be honest with my guests, so they have a clear understanding of what's going on, and I'd like to believe it allows some guests to stay away from the blame game, which no one wins. This guy took a hard left turn onto Blame Game Lane, though. He asked for my advice, and I told him that he more than likely needed to be flexible with the date. This specific day is oversold. He got a little rude after that and told me how this is so unacceptable and that he would not take no for an answer. Well, if sir will not take no for an answer, the answer will still be no. He continued to stress his frustration and asked to speak with a manager, even though I had just done that. I know that she's going to tell him the exact same thing, and she is off until later in the week. Oh, and this booking isn't for an important trip. It's just for a staycation for a couple that lives 10 minutes away. Then do it at home, crying out loud. A day or two later, he calls back and informs me that he was able to book the exact date he wanted online. Great. I'm so happy to hear that, dude. He called to confirm that we saw the reservation on our side, and I did. I got him off the phone rather quickly after that. About 2 weeks later, his name appears on the caller ID of the front desk phones. I audibly groan. Ugh. I just watched the phone ring. To be honest, I let it ring for about 30 seconds. Finally, I give in, as it is my job to do so. I pick up the phone, put on the sweetest voice, and brace for impact. Hi, this is so-and-so, and I need to cancel a booking I made for such and such a date. Unlike allowing myself to audibly groan at the sight of his name, I had to stop myself from laughing out loud. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. And if you would like to support the channel, you can do so by signing up for my Patreon page. That gets you early access to all the videos at once on Monday for as little as $1 or more, whatever you're comfortable supporting a month. There's also a link to my merchandise store on Teespring. And you could consider subscribing. Okay, let's see. Before we go, let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, what is something you disliked when you were younger, but as an adult you've come to appreciate it? Like for me, for example, it was Brussels sprouts. I hated them with a fiery passion, as many children do, and I'd never eat them. Or I'd be like, fine, just put one on the plate since you cooked them, and I felt guilty for saying no entirely, although I was never pressured into it. But as an adult, I've discovered, depending on how they're prepared, I quite enjoy them. My mother was a very good cook. I just didn't like the way she prepared Brussels sprouts. Plus, your taste buds do change as you get older. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a little look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And today's answer comes from Dust Warden. Not a sign of low intelligence in and of itself, but people are still far too quick to take someone's ability to remember information as a sign of general intelligence. I'd agree with that one. I work in a field that trades in information, so it attracts a lot of people who can spew facts like a fountain but aren't reliable to sift out the big ideas those facts imply, or present them in a way that inspires their audience to start thinking themselves. When it suggests low intelligence is when the human encyclopedia in question refuses to let the conversation rise into the realm of ideas and abstract thought because they can't follow. That's an excellent point, and thank you very much for your answer, Dust Warden. And I think that is often the case, is people often refuse to change their minds. They assume that they know a thing, that must be the correct thing, and they're not willing to let it go. That is probably one of the biggest flaws of people. That might have been the answer I mentioned in the last video. Stubbornness, conviction. It's good to have the courage of your convictions, but a smart person knows when presented with contrary facts to take a look at them, because you might be wrong. And if you are wrong, great, you've corrected incorrect information, and that makes you smarter. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves. Bye bye.